our guest speaker, Mr. Ronnie Barrett. Ronnie was born in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He began Barrett Photography Studio in Murfreesboro at age 17 after graduating from high school and became an award-winning photographer with recognition from the Tennessee Professional Photographers Association. In 1982, Ronnie hand-drew his ideas for a semi-automatic 50 caliber rifle. He and a friend working in a garage made the prototype of what would become the world-famous Barrett M82A1 M107 rifle, which was later adopted by the U.S. military and fielded by over 75 foreign governments. Ernst & Young named Ronnie one of the top entrepreneurs in America, and in 2009, Ronnie was elected to the National Rifle Association Board of Directors. Let me present the man behind all of the accolades, Mr. Ronnie Barrett.
I tell you, there's two sides to everybody. You know, there's two sides to Ronnie Barrett. You got the tough guy that makes the 50 caliber rifles. Then you got the light side. I think tonight you're going to see the light side. But, you know, because with all the seriousness that we've got, a little bit of entertaining is I guess what I'm challenged or charged with. They said, Ronnie, just come up here and talk to us about how you got started, what you did, what you ran into when you fought for some of our rights in California. And it's downright bragging, and you're going to have to excuse me on that. My mother would be proud. She tells me sometimes, she said, you know, Ronnie, I just can't believe you're here doing this, you know. But the Ronnie Barrett story has been a pretty good success story, and it's encouraging what persistence can do. I had the honor to speak over at Vanderbilt University the other day. Different universities have me come and talk. You know, anti-UT guy. But anyway, the different universities had me come in and talk to the entrepreneurs. And so after I talked to this crowd, the doctor said, you know, all you guys are the same. He said, it's the persistence that I've noticed, that the guys that made it, the successfulness, they never gave up, never give in, and with the keep trying on it, you get it done. And that's kind of the Ronnie Barrett story. I've got the clicker, don't I? Now we're going to get to find out if the clicker works this far. Well, okay. You know, I'm kind of like you. People say, how'd you get in the gun business? You know, I was born this way. It seemed like, you know, it started out with a 22, or excuse me, a little BB gun, then a 22 and things like that. These are my other brothers. You know, Mama had 4 boys all together, and what we do on Saturdays or Sundays or something like that, we take all of our guns, go out in the country and shoot them. You know, and we were real proud of it. You know, we just blow up more ammunition than you can think of. But that was how I grew up. You know, with didn't hurt me none. I actually became a pretty good shot. That was my Model 29. I just now joked about that, but a little 29 that hand-loaded the ammunition. That's a 100-yard group that you can cover with the palm of your hand. I used to be real good when I was young. I mean, God gives everybody talents and everything, and that was kind of mine. I enjoyed shooting. To be able to shoot more, the only thing that was going on back in Tennessee in those days was, you know, you had to be a cop. And so, you know, being a local boy, grew up there. My sheriff's office gave me a commission, and I worked with the detective units and with the regular units. But I got to be able to shoot in the different competitive things. You know, while all this was going on, as you heard in my resume, I had a photography studio. It was 2 doors down from the police department. They had built this range underneath, or were going to build this range, and they ran out of money, so they didn't get to have it. But at my photography studio, I had like 100 feet or something down the hall. So at 5 o'clock, we'd close it, and I had built a little bullet trap down at the end, and we'd shoot there. At nighttime, you know, we had to open the gunpowder gets so, you know, clouded up. We'd have to open the front and back door to try to get it to blow out. But so all the cops would come down there and shoot. But you know, this is what we did. You know, in Tennessee, we carry guns there. We've got the right to carry, and the more good, honest people, of course, that carry guns, the bigger the crime rate goes down. What a surprise, you know. Well, one day I got a phone call. Remember, I'm in the photography business, and the Ramo company was down the street in Nashville, Tennessee. They made the 50 caliber machine gun. And Maples, the owner of the company, called and said, Ronnie, I need you to come down and take a picture of this little gunboat on Percy Priest Lake. You know, see, Tennesseans, we do a lot of stuff. Like, you know, so anyway, so we go down there, and these beautiful big 50 caliber machine guns were on there, and that's always, you know, just like a stamp collector always wanting the next stamp, or a gun collector wanting the next gun. I always wanted a 50. You know, but nobody really made anything like what I wanted. And so I talked to Mr. Maples, who looked like an old man to me. You know, I was 26, and I said, you know, if I went out and designed this gun, would you be interested in making it? You know, what do you tell a 26-year-old kid? You know, he's a sure kid, you know. Well, I took him serious. So I go back and on the dining room table or a bar napkin or wherever I happened to be, I'd sketch out like an artist would, you know, the different components of the gun. I didn't have any drafting class, didn't have any engineering classes, so I'd sketch it out in a 3D, and, you know, went around and showed my sketches to some machine shops, and they laughed at me. Said, kid, you know, I don't think we make guns down here. I think all the guns are made up north, you know. And I thought, you know, I didn't know any better. I figured you could do something like that. I went around, and my father-in-law had a friend that had a little one-bay garage that you could barely pull a car into, and he had a mill and a lathe in there. And so I'd close the photography studio at 5 o'clock, run down there at night, and if I could keep these guys working, or, you know, Bob Mitchell and his son Rick, till 2 in the morning, I'd keep them going. And we started carving out this big, huge monster, what I drew out of a 50 caliber rifle. It was a big dude, you know. I think it ended up weighing 55 pounds. It looked like it's something that came up from the ocean of the Civil War or something. It was very crude looking, but, you know, I thought, well, this is, it's close, you know, and I was proud of it and everything, and I was going to, you know, go out and shoot the thing. Well, I'd never seen a 50 caliber shoot before. You know, you hear all these things, oh, it's going to tear your shoulder off. It's just so wicked. It rips through buildings. And, you know, if you've ever heard of the Violence Policy Center, they'll tell you all the bad things that it'll do. But it was big, so I was kind of scared. So my mother and father had a swing set that we used to play on in the backyard. So I hung it from the swing set, and, you know, I figured, well, I'll pull the string and see if it takes off over the atmosphere. I'm not going to put my shoulder to it. You know, so shot it, it thumped up pretty good, but 55 pounds didn't go too far. And so then I strung it, hit the next slide. I'm not going, there we go. So I strapped it down like Gulliver's Travels or something. You know, and put a string on. Notice at the front of the barrel against the receiver, got a little string up there. That's because it's a recoil-operated gun. I tightened the string up real tight, and so when the barrel, if it recoils back, the string would stay where it was, and it would tell me how far the barrel moved back. You know, this is when you don't have high-speed cameras and everything. Well, that's the way we do it in Tennessee, at least. Well, you know, I started working on a nicer, smaller design of it, and I took this over to the Ramo company and told them, I said, you know, got the gun, and they were quite surprised. You know, I had all this done, and I drew it up in 2 months, and then I made it in another 4 months. So I had a shooting gun in 6 months, which I thought that was the way it was done, you know. And Ramo was in a little bit of trouble. It didn't have quite the wherewithal that they would like to. They were busy bidding on the Mark 19. He said, you know, I'm sorry, we can't do it. You know, so I'd already taken all the money I was saving for a down payment of a house and shot it on that. And so I figured, well, by golly, I'll just sell some. I'll make a few and sell it. So I sketched out what I thought the next gun would look like. Hadn't built it yet, but I drew it out and put an ad in Shotgun News. God bless them. You know, they help more people get started and everything. But anyway, I took out an ad in Shotgun News, and I figured this gun was going to cost me $1,000 to make. I wanted to make $1,000 on it, and I put a $300 fudge factor in there. So when you see that Barrett rifle priced for $2,300, the first 30 people that bought them got it at that price. You know, I later figured out, you know, I wasn't much of a businessman, how much they actually cost me. They cost me $8,000 a piece to build. You know, and I love that line on there that temporarily, what does it say, that, you know, the demand has outstripped production. That's because I hadn't finished the gun yet. Well, I made up one. You know, we got the next one made that looks pretty good. And I, you know, went with some of the guys down at the Houston Gun Show. Now, this gun, that's the very one that we took, and and I hadn't finished it still. The bolt carrier was blocked up with a piece of wood in the behind it because I really didn't have the bolt or anything done yet. But, you know, I know that sounds kind of like P.T. Barnum. I wouldn't do that today, but I did it then, and it worked. But went down there, and a few guys gave me, you know, $300 deposit on it. So I took off working on the first 30 guns. I hired me an employee, my very first employee there. And, you know, I had built all these other guns in my garage at the house. I lived in a little bitty rent house that I rented from my dad, and had a gravel floor garage, and we took a piece of carpet, turned it upside down, and threw it over the rock. In the event that we, you know, dropped any springs or pins, it would fall down in there. And I had bought a welder, and we were going to weld the things up. Well, the machine shop that was making the bolt carriers said, you know, kid, come down here. We got a spot in the corner you can set up in. And so he let me come down there, and I went over to my dad's cabinet shop, and I built a rack that holds 15 guns each. It was based on a piece of plywood that was 8 feet long, and when I put it all out, I get 15 guns in it. So I built 2 racks. That's 30 guns. Went to the bank, borrowed $30,000. You know, told a friend of mine that I went to school with that was going to do it, and really had him convinced. Well, anyway, and started making. You know, I found out it's a heck of a lot harder to build 30 guns than it is just to do one, because I didn't have any tooling. I didn't know what an investment cast was. I was learning all this stuff. That's me, the skinny kid with the mustache, in a younger day. But that's back in the shop, and finally, after about 8 or 9 months, we finally got them all out and started the next batch of guns. You know, went back to the bank and borrowed a little bit more money, and I raised the price to $3,700 and built another 30. Now, those guns only cost me $6,000 a piece. But so, as you see, I'm getting closer on this. Real proud of the gun. I made that for a Christmas card. I mean, this was my baby. You know, that's me. Nice suit and everything. But, you know, so while all this is going on and running around to different trade shows and things like that, I'm also hauling around to military bases. So, you know, this is up at Quantico when Bruce Winsenson, Major Winsenson, was, who was responsible for bringing the latest version of the M16 rifle in. The Marine barracks had blown up in Beirut. You know, and so a call came that he said, you know, we need a heavy rifle that that would be able to reach out there long distances. So the Marines started taking a look at all these things, and we started reviewing, you know, or saying, I told them I had a rifle like that. I'd haul it. This is on top of the JFK Special Warfare Center building in Fort Bragg. I don't know if they do that very often, but again, you know, he must be a Tennessean too. You just kind of do it and ask forgiveness later. But, you know, and we carried it out there. And being in Tennessee, you know, you get a 75-yard shot. It's a long shot. This was the first time we took the gun out and shot it at 3,000 meters. And the sniper guy there in the shorts was just in amazement. He says, I can't believe I'm hitting this Jeep. We had a little Jeep target out there. At 3,000 meters away, he just reined in on it. And, you know, hell, I was surprised too. I'd never... You know, I didn't know you could do things like, but you know, so it really started to catch on. Now, the Navy also had a little gun that they were trying to compete with. It was made by Jerry Haskins. I don't know if any of you guys know the great gun maker or bolt action gun maker, Jerry. We competed with him and blew him away in just about every competition we ever got to. It was mighty tough for a bolt action gun to compete with a semi-automatic, but you know, everything was looking good. So as you know, at military trade shows, you know, we'd go to AUSA in the Washington, you know, but the booth would be like $15,000, $16,000. I couldn't afford that. But I'd go up there to some boring guy that had a night vision. I said, you know what, that night vision, I don't look too cool. You know, nobody's looking at your booth. You know, if you'll let me put this big gun on there and then you put the night vision on that, everybody will stop. You know? I had 4 guns on display at the AUSA and didn't pay a dime for them. So that's, you know, well, anyway. And, you know, about that time I'm having kids, of course. This is my son, Chris, and I brought him up right. Guns didn't hurt him either. I think we, you know what, 4 years old or something like that. You know, worked out okay, got a daughter. I mean, really and truly, you know, guns don't bother kids. You know, they're doing fine. You know, the different trade shows, you get to meet a lot of nice people, and I'm ripping through this fast. A lot of y'all might remember Gene Stoner. A fine gentleman that did the M16. We became very good friends. Mikhail Kalashnikov. And if I'd put them all in there, I've got, you know, from Uzi Gall and all the great gun designers that are now passed away. But, you know, you get to meet a lot of them. My kids, when they grew up, I'd make them come to work. And when they hit 13, I did what my dad did to me in the cabinet shop. You come down in the summertime and you work. So Angela, my daughter Angela, runs the marketing department in there. And my son Chris, this is an old picture of him. He's actually become a better designer than I. He has put out a lot of guns. That's one of his Model 99s there in front of him there. But, you know, we continue to go to different trade shows. And, you know, and it's doing good in the civilian business, and it's doing good in the military business. I mean, you know, even the modern airline pilot has to, you know, is catching on. And I'm thinking, this is doing good. You know, getting in a few movies or two. The first RoboCop movie, which I think they're fixing to make the 30th anniversary of RoboCop. I can't believe we're all 30 years older. But anyway, now, you know, different governments were picking up. Here we are at the top of the Arctic Circle in Norway. So other governments were watching what was happening and buying the Barrett rifle, all from this little guy that was persistent in Tennessee. That, you know, that pushed on out there, that pushed the products out. All the military guys that had been doing it in the U.S., boy, did it pay off, because when the Twin Towers, you know, came down, or actually the first Gulf War there, Twin Towers come down, we go rushing out there, and it was the right gun at the right time. So all the guys that had been fooling with it, onesie, twosie and everything, put through an emergency order, and the Marine Corps ordered 100 rifles. You know, and then the Army threw their money over to the Marine Corps to get us 125. SOCOM did the same thing. Air Force did that. And so, boy, we're in. We're heading to the front line. And it was one heck of a front line. This was, 2 Marines did this right here at 1,100 meters on a BTR. They turned around and popped him in his back door, which hit his fuel cell, lit him up. 2 other BTRs thought they'd been hit by a rocket, and they surrendered to 2 jarhead Marines laying out in the desert. You know, I asked these 2 guys, I said, what if they had turned on you? He said, well, you know, we had this little ditch, we were going to lay kind of quiet, you know? But it did great. We went to the desert, and the gun proved itself. What little things we could learn or shortcomings, you know, we got those in there and got them fixed. Now the big Army, of course, you know, after everything was over, they come back and say, you still got to go through our testing. You know, you really can't put the cart that front in front of the horse, you know. And so we come back, and the U.S. Army has to go through this huge competitive thing, which was just gritting and toiling, and we won. You know, so it became the first rifle to be adopted, well, in the last long time. It was quite an honor to have an M placed in front of your design. They renamed our rifle the M107 and signed our contracts there in Tennessee. And you know you've got it made when Hasbro makes a G.I. Joe doll with the Barrett rifle. And this soldier come up and he said, Mr. Barrett, would you mind signing a few of these G.I. Joe dolls? And I said, sure, fine. And he turns and says, bring them in, boys. And he had 4 guys with these big sacks, and he said, you know, I bought these for like $7 or $8, $9 a piece, and I can sell them for $75 with your signature on them. So that's why the look on my face, you know, because he had just told me that. But anyway, well, like I said, we got through that, got deployed back in there, and of course in the Second War started out. Again, the right rifle at the right time, you know, the hills of Afghanistan, mountains of Afghanistan, and everything in Iraq. This is where it was very important to have powerful rifles like this. Soldiers did a great job. When the soldiers were interviewed on the 10 most pieces of equipment that you find necessary, the best piece of equipment to help you get your job done, for the very first time in history, a rifle shows up in the top 10 greatest inventions list. And so, you know, the M107 and Ronnie Barrett got a nice little ceremony in D.C. where they recognized our rifle as the top 10 greatest invention for the military. Well, now, I'm going to hold it right here for a second, because while all this good stuff is going on, you know, and you do good and you're doing good work, it seems like the devil is always after you when that's happening. You know, nice little neat group called the Violence Policy Center slips in about this time. And they were looking to try to take this highlighted Barrett rifle, and they were going to claim it was just too powerful for you to do anything, and they hauled it down to California. to try to get that where they figured they'd have the best chance of doing something with it, and about they did. We came down and fought them in California, and you know, we beat them the first couple of times, and then at a meeting at the Los Angeles City Council, you know, I sat there and watched the Los Angeles Police Department present up a rifle for photo ops and tell them that they told everybody that that was the rifle the gangbangers use and the criminals and things like that. And, you know, and we pointed out, and this is the part of the story that's not all that lightweight, but, you know, we told them the truth on it, but the fix was in, you know. And you know how it is, and no matter what kind of persistence that we'd put to it, the fix was in, it was heading south. I wrote a letter to the Chief of Police, William Bratton, and tried to straighten him out. You know, at the end of the city council meeting, you know, like I said, it was John Burt and I walked out of there along with Ed Worley and all the people that worked so hard on it. The only thing you say is, wow, you know, what just happened? You know, I get back to the office and there sits an older Barrett rifle on a table in the manufacturing plant. I said, whose is that? He said, well, it's the LAPD's. Put that gun in my office, you know. So I wrote the chief a letter telling him that, you know, I build guns for law enforcement and for police and work like that. I don't do it for publicity. And if that's what you're using your rifle for, you know, come get it. You know, and I also told the legislators up there when they were working on AB 50, I said, you know, you pass this bill, you know, you've got these provisions in there that your citizens can't have guns like that, but of course the police and military can. I said, it's not going to be that way. You pass this bill, I'm cutting you off. You know? You know, it's, I wrote them a letter, said the elected government officials of California have passed into law AB 50. AB 50 creates a fictitious, too powerful for you class of cartridges, so the firearms that fire them can be banned. AB 50 thus reclassifies the dividing mark of small arms as recognized by all other U.S. government agencies. This is a blatant and unconstitutional nibbling at rights of citizens of California and displays disregard for the United States Constitution. Slippery slope illegal act of disarming its citizens places the state of California government in violating proposition. The purpose of this communication is to advise California government agencies, state, county, and city that effective January 1, 2005, Barrett Firearms, Inc. will no longer sell or support any of its products to these agencies until compliance with the law is resumed by the state of California. Barrett will continue to provide support to the private citizen in a legal pursuit of their right under the Constitution, and so on, go on. You know, I'm not going to sit here and let a government agency develop up an elite, highly armed fighting force while their citizenry, you know, has to have smaller sub-quality weapons or whatever else. That, you know, that was BS. We turned around and made another cartridge, the 416 Barrett, that's actually as powerful as the 50 cal. Rechambered it in our big gun and put a magazine catch on it so we can continue to do that. But to this day, you know, not until California becomes a law-abiding state will we sell to those agencies. So, you know, if everybody else would stick with us on that, well, anyway, that's another story. Well, all this stuff gained us a lot of recognition and stuff. Of course, when California hit, by golly, we cut California off. Gordon Liddy wanted to talk about it. Ed Bradley with 60 Minutes comes down and does interviews. And, you know, and we did real nice on 60 Minutes. You know, people say, I can't believe Ed Bradley didn't tear you up. You know, but when you're right sometimes, and I believed he was with us on it, and it was one of the best doggone infomercials I think a firearms company could ever get. We ended up being famous on Future Weapons, and Ernst & Young was surprised that we could do stuff like that, so they gave me the Entrepreneur of the Year award, and Forbes comes in and told us what we already know. Size matters, yes sir. The Wall Street Journal, front page on the Wall Street Journal. Did good. It's been a great thing. We built a nice buildings and everything. This is not a very good picture of our building. And a lot of different movies. This was The Hurt Locker. Catherine Bigelow offered me and my son parts in that, but it was filming in Jordan in the middle of the summer, and I didn't know how good of a movie it was going to be. The sucker got nominated for 9 Academy Awards. So maybe I'm not as smart as I thought, but, you know, and then Sly Stallone used it in his last Rambo movie. You probably saw it just on TV. This is my 3 kids here now. National Geographic did my 2 kids, excuse me. It's Donna's 3 kids, that's my 2 kids. But Nat Geo did a special on the Barrett family. And so that was just on here this last, or some places it's still running. You know, isn't it amazing that a lot of, I know there's, at times you feel discouraged, but things are looking up, you know. More and more people have guns. This is John Rich, Big and Rich, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. This is on his stage with his guns. He's usually got a Barrett rifle sitting on the stage. Proud of it, you know. Proud of it. He said, come up here, Ronnie. You know, we do that. You know, Charlie Daniels, when he came down to pick up his Barrett rifle, he's a nice gun guy. We got more guys coming out for guns. Of course, Ted Nugent, no big surprise. You know, that Ted's got to have a few. Good California here, my good buddy Lou Ferrigno, you know, is a Barrett owner and everything. And, you know, it's easy to have a lot of pride with such good soldiers using our rifle. We got adopted by some 67 or 70 different governments around the United States. This is persistence. This is what you can do when you're still working at stuff, and you just won't give up. Don't you love that, Pat? I love that. Love the parade stuff. Some of our soldiers in Afghanistan, you get to meet a lot of good men. This is Nick Ranstadt. Nick has the U.S. record for the longest kill for anywhere for the United States. He had 1.3 miles with a Barrett rifle. Although, now, Nick will tell you, I said, well, I hate to tell you, it's really not as good as you think. He said, you know, I was sitting at this station for 2 weeks with nothing to do, and there's this huge rock out here. And so he said, I was playing at that rock. And so I knew how to hit that rock in the morning when it was, you know, it was 20 degrees, and as the sun comes up, I know how to do it. And so, you know, one day I go off and go to bed. They call me out, and they said, Nick, wake up, there's some bad guys out here. So he said, I got my gun and come running out there, and they're standing in front of my rock. So, you know, so he said, you know, I put 2 of them in flight just with, you know, in a flash, you know. So 1.3 miles away, if you see the Nat Geo special, it shows you a lot all about that. But, you know, Afghanistan, this is a neat guy here. I like this guy. I got an email from him. If you notice, there's a bullet stuck in his gun there. He says, my name is Mark Terrell. I'm a MARSAC Marine assigned to the 2nd Marine Special Operations Battalion. On December 29, 2009, my team was engaged with Taliban fighters for a 2nd straight day in northwestern Afghanistan. During the firefight, I was getting ready to engage an enemy fighter when my M107 was struck, that's my rifle, from a machine gun fire with a PKM 7.62 machine gun. When the round struck the side of my rifle, it knocked me off the gun, sending a piece of bullet jacket into my neck. The injury suffered me was nowhere as bad as the one to my rifle received. The round struck my magazine well of the rifle, and the tracer stuck in the side of the rifle and caught the gun on fire. This caused one of the Mark 211 rifle rounds to cook off in the magazine. After the fighting slowed down, I pried the round out of the side of the rifle and removed the magazine. I took the rifle apart and gave it a good cleaning. When I put the gun back together, I was amazed to find the gun still worked. I was not able to insert the magazine into the gun due to the damaged magazine well, so I operated the gun single shot in firefights for the next 2 days. The impact of the round had no effect on the accuracy. I just wanted to tell you guys that you continue to make an awesome product, and this was the kind of thing I wouldn't believe if I hadn't seen it myself. Thanks for such a great product. I wrote him back. This is one of the nice things about emails. That, Dear Mark, I got your email with a photo. It's worth 1,000 words. Thank God for your safety in battle, a very good condition to have. In 1993 or 83, I was working on my 2nd prototype rifle. During testing, it fired unlocked, blowing it all to pieces. I was doing the firing, and my assistant caught it all on video for me to relive over and over. I went back to the drawing board and changed the steel material and the weld points to make that rifle tough enough to contain any explosion like that again. Now, with your experience, we both know how tough the rifle is. I've worked all my life to build the best rifle for times like these for Marines and soldiers like you. Thanks for your rewarding report and the 1,000 words spoken in the picture. It is the measurement of my work, and it is also the measurement of your equipment secured for you years ago by dedicated Marines that tested it in every environment so that you will have confidence when you fight. I can see in your eyes your undiscouraged continuance to fight with what you have, where you are, is the measurement of the man you are and the Marines that trained you. All of this shines in you and in the service of our great republic. Please destroy our enemy and return safely home. I am forever grateful, Ronnie Barrett. Well, it's been 30 years since I built the first Model 82 in my one-bay garage, not as a big company president or a team of employee engineers, but just like you, a person with admiration of firearms. I'm just a gun guy that God blessed with the right ideas at just the right time. Our rifle, to be able to make our rifle that would be needed only where the most powerful will do. At the same time, it formed a class of powerful rifles, bringing new dimension to civilian sporting, with no law, crimes broken, and this sticks in the throat of anti-gun, anti-American propaganda. I've been persistent. You need to be persistent. We need to stick together. Challenging times are coming. I want to personally thank all of y'all for standing guard. Like you, I will never give up. I will never give in. And, you know, I'm honored to be here with you tonight. Thank you, folks.